Welcome to Addicted to Murder. This is Courtney, licensed professional counselor with over a decade of experience.
And this is Trisha, and today I'm experiencing hypoprexia.
Oh,
Hypoprosexia,
well, that is having too little of something.
and a normally short attention span.
Oh.
Do you ever use that as a DX in your assessments?
No,
I guess not.
we just call it short attention span.
You could be all fancy and be hypoprosexia.
I will think about that.
We're back.
We are. It's been a hot minute. Thank you all.
November, I think.
Yeah, since November. Thank you all who tune into this for sticking with us and our long bouts of getting sucked into other things that just take time and energy away from the things that we maybe would rather be doing, like this podcast.
Right. I've missed doing it.
I have too.
I mean, the research part's kind of hit or miss, but I miss doing the podcast part.
I know, exactly. I was just telling Trisha that I miss her because I don't get to come hang out with her on podcasts every weekend the last few months.
And we don't see each other at work very much because we're too busy.
Exactly.
Yes.
On opposite ends of the building.
I know. So Courtney, what have you been doing?
I have really been sucked into work and dissertation land. I'm getting ready, hopefully in the next month or so, to do my dissertation proposal presentation and actually maybe start to be collecting data. So that means I've been doing just a lot of researching and writing and editing and rewriting and all of that fun stuff. And
When you do a dissertation proposal, is it like a presentation? Like, do you have slides? Do you have...
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it does involve making slides, but the proposal is just to my committee.
Which is how many people?
Which is 3 people. So
Okay.
I've got my chair, I have my subject matter expert, and I have my methodologist, who's an expert in the type of study that I'm doing. And so I basically present here's the problem, here's my research question, here's all the literature that already exists about it, and then here's, the research that I'm proposing to do and exactly how I'm proposing to do it. And so I present that to them in a nice little 20-minute slideshow. They get to ask me questions for half an hour, and then they put me into a breakout room by myself while they decide whether or not I can move on.
And if they approve you, is that IRB approval? Is that what?
No, then I get to move on to IRB approval,
Okay.
which is its own separate application. But
So-
I don't have to present for
Okay.
IRB. I just do the application.
Okay. And then once it's all approved, then you can start to collect your data, and you're going to be surveying several hundred people. Is that...
Yes. Well, technically, I get to do a pilot study,
Okay.
which is, so I'll be looking for probably 20 to 30 people
Okay.
to basically test out my materials and make sure that everything is working the way it's supposed to be working. And then after that, if there's any kinks to work out, then I get to do that and then submit for IRB approval again
Oh,
with the changes.
okay.
And then I get to actually collect data, which will be seeking out counselors to fill out a nice online survey for me.
Well, at least you've got the plan.
Yes.
You know what's coming. It sounds very regimented and a pain in the ass.
Yes, that is a good term for it.
And I know you've been working really hard for a long time. So I'm happy for you to get to these next steps.
Me
and
too.
then actually do your experiment.
Right,
And
exactly.
then write your findings and then publish it and then be a PhD.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I'll be a PhD before I publish it.
Oh,
But because your dissertation is not actually a publishable work unless your school publishes dissertations.
Okay.
But ours does not.
okay.
So if I wanted to publish it, I'd have to rework it into a journal article,
Okay.
which would make it 80 pages shorter.
Well, whatever, you're getting there. You're soon going to be Dr. Courtney or whatever you're going to go by.
Hopefully. Yeah. Hopefully.
You will.
Well, hopefully soon. I mean,
Yes,
sooner
hopefully
rather than
soon.
later. By the end of the year is my goal. But
Sweet.
We'll see. It's all about getting enough people.
Yeah. Recruiting all of those people to do your survey.
Yep, that's the hard part.
But
You've
I
been
did.
up to a lot of things too.
Well, I finished my program.
Woo!
So I got my master's in forensic psychology in December. So I am done with that. So I don't know what to do with myself. I thought that I would just start writing a lot more podcasts, but I just kind of find myself watching a lot of TV.
Well, your brain needs a break from all the learning.
Maybe that's it. I don't know. I don't know. I kind of miss some of it. I don't miss writing the papers, but I do miss like the research assignments and stuff.
Right.
Learning new things and but I don't have access to those libraries anymore, and that's okay. It's all right. We'll figure something else to do. And then I also got a new job.
Yes.
So I will be seeing Courtney even less because we won't be working together as
Right.
much.
Right. And I am very sad that she is leaving where we work, but also thrilled for her that she's doing something that she's been talking about doing for a long time.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I actually like it because, I mean, I've only done the research. I haven't done it, but I'm going to be a victim advocate that's like in the court system. So
Right.
I'll be doing a lot more court things,
Yeah.
which is a little different than the victim advocates that I've worked with in the past who do more like, I'd say like
Or like case
community-
management.
Yeah,
kind
case
of
management, like trying to hook up with resources and stuff like this. This will be more of helping people get through the criminal system, I guess, or the court system with their cases and just, explain things.
Right. Yeah.
Paperwork.
Supporting victims in a different way.
Yeah. So I start that in a couple weeks, and it's really sad to leave my job. And I learned so much about child abuse. And it's going to be the first time I've not been in the medical field in like almost 20 years.
Yeah.
So
full shift.
yeah, it's going to be weird.
It's okay. I'll still ask you medical questions now and then. Keep you on your
with
toes.
My limited medical assistant
right.
knowledge.
Exactly. Should I get a doctor to look at this?
I mean, most of the time I would say, of course, but I'm a hypochondriac as well.
Right.
You still have doctors in the building that you work with, so.
That's true, but I don't trust them as much as I trust you.
Oh, well, thanks. I don't know if.
Mostly just because, I've known you a lot longer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Personal
To
things.
go to them about a personal something.
Well, I can tell you that I've gone to them about personal things, and it ain't no thing. Like, nothing bothers. I mean, after you work in child abuse medicine, nothing really bothers you.
It's true. It's true. There's nothing as bad.
Right. So, just saying, I don't think they would mind if you were like, oh, can you look in my ear and see if there's fluid in there? Or, yeah, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. I feel like most of what I've ever asked you was like, can you take my temperature?
Yeah, I'm good at that.
Yeah.
Our thermometers suck, but, I can at least tell you that you're not, really hot. I can do blood pressures.
Nice.
Yeah, I can do an ear lavage. Those are really
You could take my
gross.
pulse and tell me that it's high because it's always high.
Yeah. You have a little tachycardia going on sometimes.
Just always.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I used to have that till I took a calcium channel blocker for many years. Speaking of which, we have a new case.
We do have a new case.
And I say calcium channel blocker because that does come into play later.
It does. But first,
Oh, yeah.
I have a question
See,
for
it's been so
you.
long I don't even remember how to do this podcast.
right. So, I was thinking, since it's been a while, to do something maybe a little deeper today. Doesn't have to be super deep. But, Trisha, what is something that you have changed your mind about recently? And
Well-
recently can be in like the last year.
As you know, I have, this might be going a little too deep. I've changed therapists recently for a brief period of time to tackle my OCD.
Right.
And I have changed my mind on how to deal with my intrusive thoughts. So
Great.
instead of trying to ignore them, distract myself, put them in a little box in my head, I am now acknowledging them and telling myself these are just thoughts. They can't hurt me. And they're just trying to help me. And just let them be and let them go. So
Some lovely acceptance and commitment therapy.
I guess. But it is hard to change from what I've always been doing for what I just thought was anxiety
Right.
to what to do with what's the kind of ERP? What's this therapy I'm doing?
Are you doing like exposure and response
Yeah,
prevention?
yeah.
ERP.
ERP. Sorry, because I've also done EMDR and CBT, and
Right.
so
Yep.
I can't keep them all straight. So, anyways, I'm looking at the way I think about things that are distressing differently, and I hope that it works because I spend way too much time pontificating about awful things that most likely will never happen.
Right.
So
Well,
there you go.
Well, I'm happy for you that you are approaching things differently, and I hope that it works for you.
I do too. I'm trying it. How about you?
Well, mine is not as deep as that
Yeah.
at all. But I was just thinking recently that I have very much changed my mind about audiobooks in like the last year.
Did you used to like them or dislike
No,
them?
I was very much like against them.
Oh.
I was like, it's faster to just read the book, which it is. And like,
You can double speed the audiobook.
it's true.
Sometimes that sounds weird though.
Right. Or like, I don't want to like, hear someone else's interpretation
Yeah.
of their voices or things like that. But in the last year or so, just with all of the reading and everything I've had to do for school, I have found like listening to audiobooks in the car while I'm driving is a way that I can still get that like experience of reading new books instead of being like, I haven't read a book in X number of years because I'm in school.
Yeah.
And I've listened to way more books this year than I've read in the previous years, like
Yeah.
by a lot. And so I am now a fan.
My mom and I share an Audible account. And so we have hundreds and hundreds of audiobooks. I go through periods of when I want to listen to a podcast or an audiobook or music.
Right.
But when I delivered pizza for 8-10 hours a day for many years, I was listening to so many audiobooks. And, like the Stephen King ones have a lot of times have the same narrator, so you get to know the voice and like, do you have a favorite audiobook? Like, or one that stands out in your mind? I listened to that one for the book club that you suggested, The Crow a Shit Turd. That was an audiobook.
Yeah, Hollow Kingdom. That's
Yeah.
a good one. I'm trying to think of the ones I've listened to. I listened to one, I think, over the summer called The Midnight Feast. That one was really good.
I can't tell by the title what kind of book that is. It could be so many things.
It's kind of like a mystery, kind of little like, kind of like fantasy elements in there that are not, but are. It's hard to explain, but it's very good. I recommend it.
I've listened and re-listened to The Help so many times, and it's constantly like regarded as one of the best audiobooks. And it's kind of cool because they have multiple narrators. So, you know how The Help is, I don't know if you've seen the movie. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've read the book.
It's told through multiple perspectives.
Yeah. So instead of them like changing their voice, it's actually a different, and it works. It works really well. But then sometimes you do get an audiobook that you can't resonate with the author.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Or whoever's reading it.
Or that's what I
It's
mean.
just like
Well, sometimes it's the author that's reading it.
it's true. Yeah. Like the book I'm listening to right now, really enjoying the content, don't love the reader.
Yeah. I listened to Prince Harry's book and he narrates it. And he's got a pretty dreamy voice. So
I'm sure he does.
it's a crazy book, but it's lovely to listen to him tell his story.
Yes, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting because there's you just can't always sit down and read.
I know,
Or
as
your
much as I
brain
want
is
to, but
just too full of other stuff.
exactly. And I'm definitely one of those people where if I want to like sit down and read, I want to have a large chunk of time to do it, which I just don't always have. So an audiobook is easier because you can listen to it in that like 20-minute chunk that you're driving to work.
Yeah. Well, the book that so this is kind of an interesting one today because I read the book and Courtney watched a program.
Yeah, it's more like I watched/listened, but it was mostly just listening and some weird images on the screen to a podcast about it.
So we have similar information, but then she has some stuff that wasn't in my book and vice versa. So we'll see how this goes. And
Yeah.
I've got cats in here that are wanting to be hugged. So if you hear them, apologies. So the book we're reading is called Perfect Poison by M. William Phelps. And I don't know what your podcast was.
It was called Mind of a Monster,
Okay.
and it was season 7, which is The Killer Nurse.
Okay.
So
And you probably
there's,
said that in here, I think.
yes.
The Killer Nurse. So it's a killer nurse, you guys.
Surprise!
So after that long ass intro, we will start. Kristen Gilbert was born November 1967. Her father's name was Richard Strickland, and he was deployed out in the Pacific Ocean, like somewhere in the Hawaiian areas, while her mother and child were back on the mainland. Her mother is named Claudia, and 6 months after Kristen was born, her father was stationed in a small town called Fall River in Massachusetts. So moved from the Pacific to Massachusetts, which is probably a beautiful place because I think Massachusetts, it's so lovely. Anyways, if this town, Fall River, sounds familiar to you, it is because that is where Lizzie Borden allegedly murdered her parents back in 1892. Did they ever determine she did that? I think it was like not determined. I don't know. I don't know that case super well. I just know there was an axe.
I think they determined it was her,
Oh, okay.
but
well,
maybe, I don't know.
Then not allegedly. 3 years later, Kristen started preschool, and Claudia, her mom, was a teacher, and her father became an electrical engineer. And in 1974, Kristen got a perhaps unwanted surprise, a younger sister named Tara. And Kristen started to spend more and more time with her grandparents during this time and less time with her actual parents. They lived down the street. So Courtney, 7 years of being an only child, and then there's a baby. What's a typical response to the older sibling or by the older sibling in this circumstance? Are they usually jealous, or is there really no way to predict a reaction?
I mean, there really can be a variety of responses that children have with like the birth of a new sibling, and it's very kind of child dependent. You know, some children really love the idea and sort of take on a caretaking role, or they think of it as like, this is my little doll and I'm going to dress them up and that kind of thing. But others really struggle with that adjustment. And it can be harder when a child is a little bit older, like Kristen, you know, being 7 years old, because they've just had more time being the center of attention. And so that big drop off from being the only one receiving attention to suddenly new baby gets, I mean, more than 50%, right? Because babies
Sure.
just need more.
Right.
You know, that drop off can feel kind of extreme.
I can't remember when my sister was born how I felt. Probably didn't love it, but got over it. I don't know. I was 3.
I was the baby sister, so I don't know.
You don't know. During her middle school years, Kristen enjoyed the fact that she had lived where Lizzie Borden was thought to have committed murder or committed murders. And so she would even brag at times throughout her adulthood that she was actually related to Lizzie Borden. I don't think this is a fact, but we can see that this girl kind of likes getting attention. Per the book, she embellished her relationship to Lizzie Borden, and that was par for the course because she was just starting to lie more and more as she was growing. So, Courtney, tell us a little bit about what a, quote, pathological liar is. I'm sure there's a different name, but why does it happen? And is it like an addiction? Does the person lying even realize they are lying if they are actually pathological about it?
So, pathological lying is also known as mythomania.
I knew there'd be something else.
Yep. It's when a person kind of compulsively lies, exaggerates, or creates stories about their lives that are often fantastical or unrealistic. Like, I'm related to Lizzie Borden. But this lying typically serves some sort of purpose, at least at first. Typically to gain attention, to boost their self-esteem, or to avoid, you know, consequences of some kind. But after a while, lies can become so habitual that they just kind of happen without even thinking. It's very much like a compulsion. It just happens. And they can be so frequent that people can actually start to believe that the lies they're saying are true. It's that kind of difficulty separating that, you know, fact from imagination and that reality testing a little bit sometimes. But it's important to note, mythomania is not a diagnosis in and of itself. Like, it's not in the DSM, but it's seen more as a symptom of other disorders, specifically things like personality disorders, the cluster Bs especially, so borderline, narcissism, antisocial, and also things like factitious disorder.
Okay. Later on, the family moved to Groton, Massachusetts, and at this time, it appears the parents sort of just started going through the motions of life. Per the book, they were unaffectionate and they were mechanical. They were strict and very disciplined. Kristen, when she was 15, started to rebel against her parents and her home life and stayed out of the house when she could. Her father later would say that she lied constantly and she, quote, never had good relationships with women, peers, and tended to get into difficulties when she had friendships with men, end quote. She told her friends that her mom was a drunk who was physically abusive, but her father claimed that that was also a lie. What are your thoughts, Courtney?
So, moving during those like preteen and early teen years can be very disruptive, especially for a young girl, and especially if Kristen wasn't close with her parents. Now, if we think about it, you're in that middle school age, you're trying to fit in, you're trying to figure out who you are, everything's sort of in flux. And so at that time when they moved, she was taken away from whatever friends she did have. And also away from her grandparents that she was really close to and often used as kind of like a refuge from her home. So I think that in response, she turned to lying about her life and her family to try and gain sympathy or attention from her peers when she struggled to fit in.
When you were just talking a second ago, my brain was like doing a little brain fart with the cluster Bs and the factitious disorder.
Yes.
I was trying to think through factitious disorder. Is that something that, like personality disorders, cannot be diagnosed till a person's at least 18 years of age, or is that different with the factitious disorder?
It's different with factitious disorder.
So a child could have that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Kristen was said to have been a very pretty girl in high school. She was also really smart. She was in the top 10% of her class, and she played the clarinet. She was on the math team, the marching band, and the orchestra, and the jazz band. Her reputation of lying was apparently well known, as some of the kids' parents didn't want their children hanging out with Kristen because of her constant lies. One of her friends said later on that she took one of her shirts. So Kristen stole a shirt from a friend. She wore it in front of that friend. And when the friend was like, hey, that's my shirt, Kristen was like, no, it's not. It's mine. Like, straight up lied.
Possibly even believed it.
Maybe, right? Kristen, bored with her classes, actually graduated a year and a half early. So that seems impressive to me.
Right. Very intelligent.
Yeah. In 1984, she graduated with honors and enrolled in Bridgewater State College. She was only 16, but was studying pre-med. Kristen was doing a lot of dating at this time, and it was always the guys that she was dating who broke things off with her. She was allegedly vindictive and would end up having the last say or would get even with these guys. A high school boyfriend recalled that she was, quote, mentally unstable and an intelligent manipulator. If she lost control of her relationships, she would freak out, do anything to save it, or at least pledge to do something to save it. If that didn't work, then she became pretty mean and would at times get physically violent. She might go the other way too. She allegedly told a boyfriend who dumped her that she was going to kill herself by eating glass. When he came to check on her, she was fine, and then he started to get mysterious phone calls after that with heavy breathing and then a hang up. He asked Kristen about these calls. She freaked out and then scratched up his face. Another ex-boyfriend got a keyed car and slit tires after leaving Kristen. In college, a boy who broke things off found that his lug nuts were loosened on his rims. Kristen herself told a friend that in high school, to get back at a boy, she stole a test he had turned in off a teacher's desk and burned it to get him back. So he got no grade for that test. Courtney, what do you think? Does it sound like she splits on these men? Maybe some BPD coming out?
I mean, Kristen is definitely demonstrating some severely disruptive relationship patterns and behaviors that could definitely be a part of borderline personality disorder. Her father being absent when she was very young and then feeling disconnected from her parents could have contributed to feelings of abandonment and attachment problems, which often underlie BPD. I am thinking, that BPD splitting is a really good explanation for her behavior, which, just as a reminder, it's when a person with BPD starts a new relationship by idolizing their partner. But then when something goes wrong, they immediately go to like intense hatred or rejection. So it's like, I love you or I hate you, and there's nothing in between.
It's a bizarre phenomenon. I've experienced it myself, having this disorder, and I am like, God, that's so weird. So you love someone, or you think you love someone.
Right, because they're up on a pedestal.
Yeah, or it might not even be love, but whatever. And then they do something that makes them come down off that pedestal, and all of a sudden it's almost like disgust. And you're like, ugh. And then this gal gets a little violent.
Takes it to the next level.
Yeah. In 1986, Kristen met Glenn Gilbert. Glenn was a chill dude, and Kristen may have been attracted to Glenn because she thought she could get him to kind of be the person that she wanted him to be, to like mold him, so to speak. They married in 1988, and a month into their marriage, the newlyweds got into a fight. She threatened Glenn with a large butcher knife and actually chased him around the home. He had to lock himself in a room and wait for her rage to subside. It was not the start of the marriage that Glenn had hoped for, and it would only get worse. Courtney, if we are dealing with BPD here, tell us about the rage and any other diagnoses you want to explore at this point.
So borderline rage is a distinct feature of BPD where intense, uncontrollable, and disproportionate anger erupts in response to perceived rejection or abandonment. It escalates very quickly and can include verbal and physical aggression or engaging in self-destructive behaviors as well. But then it just dissipates just as quickly. And it often leaves the target of the rage confused about what happened, especially if their partner seems to kind of act like nothing happened, since the feelings of rage have passed and now they feel fine. So that can be pretty hard on a relationship. In terms of diagnoses, I do think that BPD is likely present, but I also think there might be some other things going on. For example, on the podcast that I listened to, Mind of a Monster, which is about Kristen, they mentioned that she had engaged in some minor harm to animals when she was younger, and also that in her first job as an in-home caregiver while she was in nursing school, she intentionally put her disabled charge in a bath so hot that he was scalded over 60% of his body and did not really seem to have any remorse about this action. And the psychologist on the podcast described these behaviors as kind of like experiments into what she could do and get away with. So I would definitely wonder about some possible just antisocial traits as well.
Yeah, I mean, the more we learn about Kristen, the more seems to be very little guilt or remorse at all.
Right.
About, yeah. Kristen graduated in 1989 at 21 years old. She started her nursing job at the VA Medical Center in Leeds that March. Not long after she started her job, she ran into what some may perceive as bad luck with her patients. They started to die when she cared for them. One of these patients was a man by the name of Lewis. He was 51 years old and in pretty good physical health. He was admitted in 1990 for esophageal problems. This was most likely tied to a suicide attempt years prior when he swallowed drain cleaner. So he had damaged his throat so badly that he now ate through like a gastro tube. He was a regular at the VA hospital for antibiotic treatments. Lewis also suffered from schizophrenia. He was having a particularly bad mental health episode during this time at the hospital, and he was in Ward C, which was Kristen's ward. He was screaming to let him die and that he was in pain. But this was somewhat par for the course for him, and he was kind of ignored by the staff. This time, though, he was acting more unstable than what was typical for him, and he screamed for hours, and then he just went silent. When he was checked in on, he was found to be dead. No code had been called, and no one knew what had happened. When looking at his chart, his primary nurse was Kristen Gilbert. Lewis' death was unexplained, but things happen, and so it wasn't really looked into. This was the beginning of a long stream of mysterious deaths that would occur on Ward C. In fact, one doctor noted that several of his patients died when Kristen was their primary nurse, and he asked the nurse manager to stop assigning his patients to Kristen. So this got out to the staff. who rallied around their fellow nurse, disbelieving and shunned this doctor.
No one wants to believe that, their friend there, that a nurse
Right.
could do this.
It's much easier to believe in the evil doctor that makes all the money than a fellow nurse would be hurting patients.
Right.
Yeah. So any thoughts so far, Courtney? It could just be bad luck for Kristen at this point. In fact, she started to get the nickname, quote, the angel of death due to her unfortunate, quote, luck having these patients who died on her watch.
It is always possible that Kristen just had bad luck and was randomly assigned all of these patients who happened to develop sudden onset death. But if we learned anything from our episode about Charles Cullen, our other killer nurse, is that coincidences like that are unlikely.
Right. Correlation doesn't mean causation, but it doesn't mean it should be ignored.
Right. It means there's a relationship between them.
Something's going on. When the ward clerk started to sift through the data at this time, they saw Kristen's name all over the charts of patients who she found dead or whom she called the code on. In 1 year, the number of patients who died or coded on her shift was 31, which was more than 3 times the amount of any other shift. So to put this in perspective, Kristen found 22 patients unresponsive, and the next highest number for a nurse was 5.
That's a big difference.
Yeah. In December of 1990, despite Kristen's rotten luck at work with her patients, she gave birth to her first child, a little boy. Now that she was a mom, she dressed the part. She played it up. Per the book, she, quote, relished the role of being perceived as the idyllic mother and dressed like a Catholic schoolgirl. Now, something weird happened at work at this time on one of Kristen's shift. She was taking the phone calls when she allegedly received a bomb threat. She freaked out, called the bomb squad, had the hospital evacuated, all of the things you do when there's a bomb threat. The bomb squad spent hours but found no evidence of a bomb. So they left. Right after they left, Kristen found a mysterious tissue box in a closet with a swastika crudely drawn on it. So they called the bomb squad back, evacuated the patients again, only to find that it contained tissues. What do you think, Courtney?
Kristen's need for attention seems pretty insatiable. She played at being a new mom for attention, and when that got old or, people started to stop paying attention, she had to find another way to keep herself in the spotlight. Hence the bomb threats and the tissue box. And while this definitely could be related to BPD, I also see some narcissistic traits in Kristen as well. So we just got all the cluster Bs hanging out together.
I feel like the need for attention is the narcissistic trait.
Yes.
And then her changing her whole persona, like as a mom, is a BPD trait.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying. Kristen continued to lie at work, claiming her mother's name was Tisha or Taisha, and that this was a royal name. She had claimed that she had done schooling in England and as a child, and that her parents were socialites who had connections with the royal family. She also developed a serious shopping habit involving expensive items. She always wore designer clothes, and she talked about all of the designer things she had. If she had people at her house, she would show off all the new expensive things she had purchased. People felt like she needed to one-up them. So some of us have those friends.
We do.
Right. One of her friends told a story about how she told Kristen all about a car she wanted. I think it was a Jeep of some kind. She was saving for it. She had researched about it. She was excited to maybe purchase it someday. And a couple of weeks after she told Kristen this, Kristen came to work waving the keys of her brand new car, the same one that her friend told her about less than a month before. Her friend felt like it was just to gloat, to prove that she was better and she could get whatever she wanted. What do you think, Courtney?
I think that Kristen still doesn't know how to relate to others in a healthy manner, so she is resorting to using lies, exaggeration, and material goods to try and make herself look and feel better. And again, that narcissistic piece of, I have to be as good or better.
Neener.
Right, exactly.
When Kristen was 26, she gave birth to her second son. Coincidentally, it was on her birthday, so she's going to have to share a birthday. I'm not going to like that. By 1995, her marriage was starting to unravel. The two of them were arguing all the time, and Kristen would speak about divorce regularly. She changed at work. So she'd go to work in one set of clothes, and then she'd change into different ones. She became much more secretive and less chatty with her coworkers as well. At this time, Kristen's appearance also began to change, which I just said this backwards. She lost weight. She dressed differently. She changed her hair, her makeup. She wore a fake nose ring. Not a big deal. I mean, change is good. Do what you got to do to feel better. But it was just something that was noticed when her and Glenn's marriage were on the rocks. She was going out a lot now as well. So this is where I was saying she changed at work.
Right.
Kristen, who never really cooked before, was now making food all the time for Glenn. So that's kind of weird if you think about it. They're like on the rocks, and now she's all of a sudden making dinner when she never used to.
Right.
She's not really eating it. She's just making food for Glenn. And Glenn noticed that the food had a weird taste, powdery, quote, similar to the taste of dissolving aspirin in your mouth. I didn't look that up, but I just immediately thought arsenic. I don't know. Glenn didn't say anything because he didn't want to fight, but I don't think he ate much of her food. I think he was a little sus about something.
I mean, I would be.
Maybe just in the back of his mind even, but it was like, I'm not going to eat this. It doesn't taste good. Kristen became interested in a security guard at work named James during this time. She started to be a little flaky at work as well, showing up late. Once her boss asked her why she was late, and she claimed that she had to help an elderly couple. They fell at the mall, and she had to give one of them CPR, but unfortunately the guy died. She had tried to save his life, and this impressed her boss so much that she sent out an email praising Kristen for trying to save a life outside of work. Later on, investigators would discover that the couple was alive and well. They did fall at the mall, but no one helped them up. Kristen may have seen this, but she didn't even try to get them up. So that's some excuse for being late to work. What do you think?
I mean, another common behavior of people with BPD, like you said, is to lose themselves in a new partner or a friend. So Kristen's change in appearance and behaviors could be related to her new love interest, James, and, wanting to be the person that she thought he wanted her to be. But at the same time, she still had to keep up with her need to be admired and respected at work, even if that meant lying to her boss about saving people.
Doesn't this just sound so tiring?
So much.
So much planning.
And probably just a lot of thinking on her feet, too.
Like, just...
How do I get out of this? Okay, first lie that comes to my mind is what I'm going to say.
Yeah. But, like... Yeah. The lying, and then having to figure that out, and then,
Having to remember what she said and keep the story straight later.
Kristen and James were starting to get hot and heavy now, hanging out on their work breaks, going out to the bars at night, meeting up in cars on the road. But other things started to bring them together as well. Anytime a code was called in Ward C, James would show up to assist. So what I'm taking this for is that when they call a code in this particular hospital, a security guard comes to assist with CPR.
Right.
So when James was on shift, he would be the one that would go to the ward. But codes were happening more and more on Kristen's shifts when James just happened to be working. Coworkers noticed that the pair would be flirting while trying to, quote, save a life. I'm not quite sure what that means, but as time wore on, James and Kristen saw each other often. It was a full-fledged affair at this point, and for some weird reason, manipulation perhaps, Kristen told James she wanted to set him up with her little sister, Tara. James was confused, but thought her sister was cute, and she was single, so this was a plus, and he agreed to the date. Kristen was bragging to everyone about what a great matchmaker she was, which I'm sure was very confusing since everyone knew she had been screwing around with James. Anyway, the big party date occurred, and James asked Kristen where her sister was. Kristen claimed she changed her mind about setting them up because she would be too jealous. To everyone else, though, she said that she wouldn't allow her little sister to hook up with James because of his drinking habits. Courtney?
I think that Kristen just needed a reason to invite James to her home for a party so that she could be with him and flaunt their relationship in front of her husband. But that she still wanted to maintain her, quote, good reputation, or what was left of it.
The party was at the hospital, but her husband was there.
Okay, yeah. I knew that he was there. So
yeah. So
wanted there to be a reason that
I didn't think about that.
He could invite her.
I wasn't sure. Like, unless she was just, like, testing James to see if he'd be loyal to her. Like, I wasn't sure what this was about. Just thought it was very weird.
It could be that. But either way, it's some sort of manipulative game.
Glenn was there. So, yeah, could be that. I don't know.
Right.
It's bizarre.
Yeah, on the podcast I listened to, they talked about kind of this as well and how she was very obviously still all over James at the party in front of her husband.
Yeah, they have a picture of her very provocative outfit. I don't know if they showed you that on the podcast. Yeah. A harem girl, I think.
Right.
She was.
Yeah. And then just kind of to talk to what you mentioned before about her and James flirting during codes. Again, that's one of the things that they talked
Okay,
about.
good.
And they gave an example of one time when Kristen was wearing a fairly short skirt to work.
Okay.
And basically climbed right on top of the victim and was like straddling him while giving him CPR intentionally so her skirt would ride up and everyone could see that she was wearing a garter belt
Okay.
and kind of putting on a display
Got it.
for James. So that's just like one example of
Must
what
have
that
worn-
may have looked like.
I do remember, when nurses wore skirts.
Right.
I wear jogger scrubs. No skirts
Right.
for me. Okay. All right. Well, there's something because I was like, what are they like winking at each other over the
Or like
compression?
brushing up against each other.
Yeah. I don't know. But we can see something occurring here. These codes are happening when James is at work
Right.
on Kristen's shifts and
So that he can come and help
can come and help.
and witness her being this hero.
Right. Okay, so maybe Glenn did stop eating the food Kristen gave him after all. He was admitted to a hospital with what was dangerously low potassium levels, and the levels were so low that it made no sense. They said something about like it would have to be like he didn't drink water for like 4 days to get this low of potassium levels. He was stabilized and he was sent home. Kristen, telling Glenn that she was not convinced that the hospital did a good workup, told Glenn that she would like to take his blood himself and test it at work. He was kind of weird, but he was like, okay, you're the expert. So this was her plan. She then got caught rifling through the medication closet at the VA during this time. When she was asked what she was doing, she said that she was looking for potassium because Glenn forgot to fill his meds. I guess this was okay, but man, times have changed. I don't know. I never worked at a hospital. I mean, I did, but I didn't work with meds. So I don't know if it was be like, oh, I forgot to get my prescription. I'm just going to grab it from here. Doesn't sound like it would be good, especially with Pyxis machines, but.
Right. Well, this was also like 1990. They
Right.
didn't have those, I'm sure.
Yeah. And maybe that was fine. Whatever. It's just potassium. I don't know. Anyhow, she took medicine from work, allegedly potassium. A couple of nurses noticed that Kristen had odd-looking medications in her jacket that was hanging in the wall, and so they kind of looked in and see what they were, and they had never heard of the medications that were in her jacket, and they wrote them down and did some research, and she had taken nifedipine, which is a calcium channel blocker, and she took captopril. I'm sure I said that first one wrong. But anyways, the two drugs, if given in combination, could lower the heart rate to a fatal level. I'm terrible with medications. If you see the chart notes that I scribe, they're laughable. So now she goes back to Glenn to get his blood to test. She brings home a big old syringe and fills it with, quote, saline, and tells Glenn that she needs to flush it out before she draws the blood, which of course makes no sense. However, Glenn trusted her. Kristen injected the solution into Glenn's arm, and he started to go numb and get very cold. He tried to pull away, but Kristen pinned him to the wall and finished the injection. Glenn then passed out. He woke up on the floor to Kristen, who said something like, quote, this isn't going to work. You must have fainted at the sight of the needles, and then left. Courtney?
I mean, I'm not a medical doctor or a detective, but I'd say that sounds an awful lot like attempted murder.
Right?
Yes.
And, yeah, you go get blood drawn. They never put anything in your vein.
I have never had my veins flushed
Right.
before a blood draw.
I mean, I think they did that with certain IVs, but not for a blood draw.
Right.
So,
No.
But again, he's trusting her. He's not suspecting her of this kind of stuff. He's not really,
Right.
I mean, he might have an inkling of an affair going on, but it's not something that's
on his radar.
Yeah, he's not thinking his wife is going to kill him.
Right.
So, and she didn't, but I agree. I think that maybe she just tried or she was doing her experiment.
Right.
You
Maybe
know?
to see what would happen if she injected this into someone.
Yep.
And if it got her out of a marriage she didn't want to be in anymore, then
Right.
handy side effect.
Right. So that's where I'm going to stop for the day.
Okay.
And it's kind of interesting that we have two sources
Right.
for the story. Hopefully they don't differ.
I haven't
as
heard
far-
anything like
Okay.
very different between
Like-
the two.
Because the person that wrote this, I mean, these books that are older, like, I don't think that they were like an investigative type of journalist
Right.
necessarily. This is 2003. So some of the way that it's written is like, I don't know, when you're writing kind of fancy words. I'm losing my
Like
fancy
a little
words.
more like lyrical.
Yeah,
and, like,
yeah. Like they put in a little of their own flair. It's
Right.
not so much like the Anne Rule
The
style.
facts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, but I'm struggling saying it. So, anyways, and it sounds like yours was more of a podcast based on like just like the facts investigation, not telling a story as much.
Right.
So
right.
there could be some differences that we'll see, but hopefully not.
Right. Yeah.
So, anyways. Thanks for listening to this longer than normal episode, probably because we had a long introduction.
Yes. But it's all good.
Yeah.
You needed to know what we've been up to for the last 3 months.
Right. We appreciate you listening to us again. And I think this one might be 3 parts, is what I'm guessing.
Okay.
So maybe 4, but I think 3. Anyways, do you have anything else you want to say?
No, just glad to be back.
Yay. Me too. All right, everyone, stay safe. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Bye.
Bye.